So we have read in Scripture that the heart of man is deceitful above all things. So is there anything that is more deceptive on earth than the heart of man? No. But is man in knowledge of his deception? Yes or no? No. Deception is by definition always not known to the one that is deceived. Because if he would know that he's deceived, he would come out of the deception. So the greatest issue in the saving of men is to make man clear his self-deception, which he's not aware of. And I only came to understand this in my practice, since I'm there working for 22 years on the human being. I was growing up in the Adventist church. I had all this knowledge. I wanted to become a pastor. And then I was shifted to become a physician. But I'm still a pastor, even though I didn't go through theological school. So when I came to understand in my practice the human being and what makes him sick, I realized what the Bible says: the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Now, in German, my friend Luther translates this same Bible verse a little bit different, because I believe he was inspired, and you need to be inspired to understand the Bible and to know what it wants to say. And he wrote there and says the heart is something that is amazingly not stubborn, but how can I say it? It protests against certain things, and it's desperately disoriented. Or das Herz ist unaussprechlich. Es ist ein Ort des Trotzes und der, what's the German word there? Because I was speaking English. Ein trotzig und verzagt Ding. So someone maybe know German can help me in translating that. So the heart is something that goes against yourself, and it is totally verzagt. It's disoriented. It's disoriented. Yeah, that's somehow defined. Yes. So imagine, it's whose heart is it? Your heart or someone else's heart? So are we aware of it? I think no, because since I was growing up, no one told me that I have a deceitful heart. Everyone told me that I'm a good boy, and I mean, sometimes I was good. And I was raised in church. I never knew how deceived I was. And so I had to become a physician to realize it. So this is where we are starting to have this sermon this morning. So disease is the result of a self-deception, because it comes as a result of a relationship that is not working according to love. That's why it makes lack of love. Now you see this the first time, you might think, this doctor is not so normal. But wait and see and study it for yourself. In my 21 years of seeing thousands of patients, only in my practice I have 30,000 patients, and traveling around the world since 15 years, everywhere I see patients, and I found in everyone the same pattern, the same thing. And that convinced me that things are so. And even to not just convince me, but you need to understand it as well. So is disease a cause of a not orderly relationship, so to say, a love relationship. Because if disease would be not a love relation, comes from a not love relationship, then we have learned this morning, and we will go into it also about the law and righteousness, and then we would understand that not loving your neighbor proves that you are disconnected or not in the love of God. So, since relationships are just in our minds, they are not outside of us, since we only live in ourselves, yes, we don't live outside, it is most important because in ourselves we just live by thoughts. And they are our thoughts, we defined last night, just the information that we process in the thoughts are not ours. And this is important to make the difference. I explain thoughts like a truck that transports something on it. So the thought is the truck, and the information is that what it transports. Now, you cannot, how can I say, separate the truck from its content, because the truck was meant to transport something. Yes, if it doesn't transport something, he's not a truck, he's not functional. So thoughts are trucks that transport an information that they pick up from outside. Now the question is, who thinks? Are you thinking, or is someone else thinking? And we cleared this last night as well, that it's us we think. Yes, my thoughts are my thoughts. The information that I think is not from me, but what I think is me. That's important. And then I have to know, where do I start thinking? Do I start thinking consciously or unconsciously? And then we had the question, what is the power of the thought? And I hope we cleared that last night, and everyone understands that the thought is the greatest power. That is, not in the thought is the power, but in the information that the thought is working with. So, God created things by what? By words. What are words? Words are an information. So the strongest power in the universe is information. The Bible is information. That's why the whole world lives from information, not from food, not from anything else, but from information. And if you want to guide the human being, you need to put in front of him an information that he may think he needs it, so that he deals with it. So God started, since He's a spirit, everything with information. That's why love is an information. It's the highest thing, the highest power, and you can share it in your thoughts. So what is their role in health? Well, if everything we do is the result of our thinking, then evidently we need to know what we think, how we think, and how this whole process works. And especially, which thought makes the human being sick. Why do we get sick? That's why the question that I had to answer to my patients, and I'm glad that after a few years of studying together with God, I came to a very clear and new, beautiful conclusion. The book just arrived last year, the second part, because I had no time, and some people had to help me so that it's there. But I believe the information is powerful and savable for everyone who will put it into action. So we said last night, we need to know our human being. We have seen that we have a structure. We are built in a way. We have a spirit and a body, which makes the soul. So we defined that last night, that we are a soul combined of two different elements. And then we defined function. Function says the spirit controls the body. The body does not make any movements without the spirit. And the spirit says, and the body listens. He obeys the command. And that's why we work with two elements. We need love and we need chemistry. And we have seen that connection, that love is first because the spirit controls the body, and then he also feeds the body with the chemistry that is there at his disposition. And so here is science, because all these things are unchangeable. No one can move them. They are so made by God, and they are our orientation when we want to find out why we get sick or where is the deception in the human being that makes him sick. And having put this foundation last night, we want to go to my first case where I saw how the thoughts make the body sick. Now, it took me sometimes in my first years to find out that we have a spirit and we don't live just by chemistry, but we also live by the word, by information. So we need love, we need freedom, we need faithfulness, justice. And this was a patient that came to me. She was 30 years old back then, and she had severe headaches since 2 weeks. Both sides of her brains were headache, and this is the chemical reaction that I pain there coming from the limbic system into the cortex, and there the spirit picks up the pain, and he realizes he has severe pain. Now she was with her primary doctor. He gave her different medication to reduce the pain, but it did not work. And after 2 weeks of not being successful with his medication, he sent her to me as a specialist for ENT to see if she does not have a sinusitis or something that is there in the sinuses. That's why the pain doesn't go away. Now, my consultation was showing no signs of any infection, no signs of anything in the nose. But since she made such a painful appearance, I was thinking maybe she has a brain tumor or a bleeding somewhere in the brain. So let's send her urgently to my colleague who makes the picture, the CT. And she made a CT scan, and out of that CT scan of the brain and the head, everything was fine. Now she comes back the same day with the pictures, and you see nothing there. Now what do you do with the poor patient? Medication doesn't work. What do you need first to know as a physician? What do you need to know? Well, you need first to know what is the cause. You see, I was going through medical school. We do not deal in medical school really with the cause. But before I started my practice, I prayed to God, what should I read in order to be prepared for my work at the practice? And the thought that came to me was Ministry of Healing. Now, I knew about the book, but I never really studied it. Yeah? So I said, okay, if God is telling me to take Ministry of Healing. So I took the book. And in that book, even Ellen White was not a physician, the information was very clear. The first thing a doctor needs to know is the cause of disease. And now I'm sitting there and say, do I have a cause? Is there a cause to the pain? Or can the pain just appear without it? And now you rule out, have she been abused? I mean, beaten? No beating, no accident. She had no event that physically touched her. So what shall I do with her? Just tell her, go home and take stronger medication? So I was trained by this book that God wrote through Ellen White to find out the cause. So since I did not find a physical cause, I had to go to the spiritual cause, that is, to her own thoughts. And so I asked her, what happened 2 weeks ago? And then she told me what happened 2 weeks ago. Exactly a few hours before her headache started, she found out that her boyfriend has been betraying her, that he went with another girl and betrayed her. So that was the event. Followed after a few hours. Headaches develop in a few hours. They can come very fast in some people, in others they come a little bit later. But the headaches were just the result of her finding out what her boyfriend did. Now you ask yourself the question, why does she get the headache and not the boyfriend? Because the boyfriend does the wrong, do you? But why is she getting the headache? And for me, this is my basis on what I function is, whatever destroys the body, if it is poison, if it's heat, if it's cold, if it's pressure, whatever destroys the body must be wrong. Are you with me on that? Yes? So even if your thought destroys your body, and even if you think that thought is correct, if it makes you pain, it cannot be correct. That's as simple as I put it. Whatever destroys the body, whatever makes you that pain cannot be correct. And now I was put in front of this situation, not the first time, but the first time I saw the procedure, how it worked. This lady gets headache on the processing of an information. The headache does not come because she was beaten, because she didn't have a good lifestyle. Her headache just came because she was processing an information about her boyfriend. And obviously, she was not processing the information correct, because correct processing information would not destroy your body. Is that, you can follow that? Yes. So, what was wrong in the way she was thinking? Because you will see, she has a normal thinking like every one of us. But the headache proved to me that she was not thinking correctly. And I had to find out, what was it? Where was that thing, that information that came to her, she processed it in a way to make herself the headache. So let's think and analyze how we think before we have an information that is negative to ourselves. Yeah? When she did not know what he was doing, she had loving thoughts toward him. Yes? Thinking, what a good boyfriend I found. She made a lot of, sacrifices, because she moved from North Germany to South Germany to move to this young man. And she left her parents behind, she left her friends behind, and she moved to this place just to live with him. And after 1 year, she finds out that he is not faithful. So, as long as she was thinking freely, loving him, her body was functioning perfect. Whenever you love someone and you have a loving thought, your electrical impulse that we learned last night, we do with our thinking into the brain, is by the brain, approved with a good emotion. A good emotion is an approval of what you think subconsciously about others. If you think nicely about others, you have a good emotion. And now she hears the news that comes from her boyfriend. And this information is not according to her needs. It's an anti-need. Yeah, you don't have a need to be betrayed, do you? Or to be lied, or all those things are anti-needs, because we have only good needs like truth and justice and those things. So this information doesn't fit to what she needs. And so now she changes the way she thinks, and she becomes disappointed, hurt, and had also thought of revenge. Now, does she react normal or not normal? Yeah, she reacts normal. So how many of us would get headache? I mean, not all of would get headache. Some would have getting a back pain or a stomach ulcer or anything. It could do anything to your body. But here she has the headache because she was thinking something that is not correct or is correct. It must be incorrect because what does it do? It makes to her body a wrong electrical impulse. And the next question is, does she think freely these thoughts or does she have to think these thoughts? Now I know what people answer because I held thousands of these programs, and most people believe that you think consciously that you are hurt. You get angry consciously, which I could never see in my life, and I could never see it in my patient's life. We all get angry because it's like a shortcut that we have in our spirit, in our thoughts. So the person is not now thinking any more freely, but she now is processing what? What he did. Yes? So we saw last night that we live from what a person says or does, or how she is, or how the person is, and how she's doing. So that's what you judge it. Yes? So if you judge some person from the beginning, he's a narcissist, you will always treat him like a narcissist. Yes? You will protect yourself, you will, yes, keep distance, or whatever, you know? So that's how we live from that information. And now she takes that information and she has this boyfriend. And I asked her specifically what she was thinking, because when you're a doctor, you can ask what you think. Yeah? Don't ask it when you're not a doctor, because you might be amazed what the other thinks. Yeah? So she told me that she wants to keep the boyfriend, but only if he's faithful. Now, what outcome does she have in that way of thinking? She wants to keep him, but she wants to keep him only if he's faithful. Is it a possibility or an impossibility what she thinks? Yeah? So she's in her mind in a circle with no end. Because I want to keep him, but I cannot prove him. I cannot make him a chastity, how could you call these people this? Chastity belt, yeah? Because the problem is here, not there, yeah? So you can do nothing about it. You can do nothing about it. And so she's in a circle without solution. That's why the headache do not disappear, because she thinks about it day and night. And if she could, would she force him to be faithful or not? What do you think? Yes, because it's a good thing to force others, isn't it? But she is in a prison because she understands she cannot force him, but she would do it if she could. It's like a mother she was 72, the mother, and she had a daughter that was 48 years old. And the daughter had a not good marriage, and the husband left her with 3 little children, and the mother was not happy with her daughter, because she said to me, when the daughter came home at the age of 23 with this boyfriend, I could not avoid her to marry him. But now she raised her children, and the husband left her, and now she has a boyfriend, her daughter. And she has a boyfriend that was twice married. And the mother does not agree to it, because she's 72 and the daughter is 48. Mothers are sweet, are they? They always remain mothers. Yeah? They know what partner you should marry and not. And so she comes to me because she wants me to help her to avoid this marriage with this man who had 2 wives already and they left him. And then I put her the question, because she was also an Adventist lady, and I said to her, it was on a camp meeting, and said to her, if you would be God, would you change your daughter's mind that she should separate from this boyfriend that she now has for 2 years? What was her answer? Without thinking, yes. Now, thank God we are not gods. You know, if I would be God on earth, there would be no violence. There would be no wars. I would, like Mr. T, stop everything. Would you? Yeah? Because this is right. If we would be gods, there would be no violence on earth. We just would put everyone to force and doing the good. But thank God, we're not gods. Yes, we would be difficult because we would put in force. And force and love, do they exclude or complement? Love and force are excluding themselves. Where there is love, there's no force. Where there is force, there's no love. So she wants to force her boyfriend to do the right, but she's unable to do it. Now, going one step further, is her expectation justified? Is she angry for a good reason or no good reason? I know what you think. I mean, everyone thinks that her expectations are justified because we all think the same. And we have all the same self-deception in us, believing that someone is subject to us. Is someone subject to us? Is my wife under me, and does she need to owe me faithfulness? Yes or no? Men, are you with me? Yeah, scared answer, yes. Pardon? Yes, exactly. That's okay. So let's be very, very clear on that. We have in us an idea that is not correct. Is this lady above her boyfriend or lower than her boyfriend in her thoughts? You understand? She thinks he owes her faithfulness. Does he do that? Does he do it? Of course not. Yeah? So that's why this process of our thoughts is I found them in all my patients. That is, you think nicely until you get an information from your love source that does not fit your need. You change your way of thinking, and it's not the other who gets sick, but you yourself, because you cannot love the other like he is. You cannot love the sinner. You see, I sometimes put the question when I go and, how many years do you need to go into a church to love the sinner? How many years? Should we not be professionals in loving the sinner? Because who does she love? Him or her? Yeah, she loves herself because she thinks that he did wrong to her. She has no pity with him, that poor guy. He needs 2 women instead of 1. Yeah? We don't think like that. Yeah? Because in our self-deception, we raise ourselves above the other and judge him. This is why Christians go mostly for nothing to church. Because when they come into a situation to love the sinner, they cannot love him. They cannot say, oh, poor guy, why did that happen to you? How can I help you to get out of that? Is that our attitude towards the sinner? I tell you, far away. I met so many of my Christian brothers and sisters. I had a very severe case when there was a lady who was married to a husband for 40 years. They were Christians in a conservative church, and they were marriage counselors, both of them. And just 3 years before she came to see me, a young lady came into the church that was 38 years younger than her husband. And he sat beside her in the church. And you know, even in church, miracles happen. And so she searches the father, he searches the young woman. So he forgot all his marriage counseling. 70 years old, she was 32. He took her, he divorced his old wife, took his young wife, and off he went. Does he get sick? No, because he loves. He is very happy. He got the, like 6 in the lotto, call that. And she gets sick. Why does she get sick? Does she love him? Does she say, I wish you good luck? Well, if you cannot wish good luck to your enemy, how will you love him? So she gets sick, she comes to my practice, and I now need to teach her that she's deceived. I need to show her that she breaks the commandment because she has to love her husband no matter what he does. Any woman is happy about that? Yes, it's always. So let us think a little bit to this situation, because we are living a very superficial life, and me as well, until I got to see the problem in my patients. We are deceived because we believe something that is not true. No one owes us anything. Only we owe anyone to love him. That's the condition. That's the law. So let's see how it works. So what is the cause of our relationships? We have spouse, father, mother, if we want. Do we go into a relationship with the purpose to give? That is, to love. Or do we want to receive love, to be loved? Why do we go into a relationship? Now, you know what most people answer? They say both. But both cannot function. You either or the other, because the law does not permit you to love, to give, at the same time to be expecting something back to be loved. So every human being, through the deception that we are born in, believes that he is dependent for love from the acts and existence of others. This is the two roots of all our relationship issues. Either the one that you supposedly love does not the right thing and you get in trouble, or he does the right thing and he passes away. And then you're in trouble. Now it's amazing to see in all those thousands of patients, if you have a marriage couple that did not harmonize together and the one partner dies, the partner who remains become healthy. If they have a good relationship together and the partner dies, the one who remains gets very sick. Isn't that amazing to see? Why? How does this work? I mean, I was like a little child looking to my patient and said, this is amazing. You know, when you supposedly get free from the burden that you had and your blood sugar gets well. There was a case of an elderly lady that always had high blood sugars. And since half a year, her blood sugar was normal. And she was taking the same medication than before, and the doctor was just amazed, and he said, what happened? Well, half years ago, her husband died. And so she had a burden with him. She had to take care of him. She had to raise up in the night. And when you get raised up at 3 o'clock in the night to put someone on the toilet, are you very happy? Do you just feel like, well, this is it? So things go into in our relationships, we enter into dependent relationships in which the acts and the existence of others make our life good or miserable. It's not a good position we are in. So all with whom we enter into a relationship become our debtors. I am good with you, you have to be good with me as well. So we all compare the others with ourselves. We don't know the law that you need to first to take, and then in order to give. So let's look to the fundamentals that we already learned this morning, what is most important to understand. There are two things that are basic for all of us because everything is made like that. The general structure of each element of creation is a channel. Everything that God created has an entrance and an exit in its function. And the law through which everything created functions is identical to every element that exists in this universe. That is the law that says nothing can exist or function by itself. It needs first to take. You need power in order to do something. And then you have to pass that on. That means nothing can do anything for itself. That's the law. No one can change that. If you bring to me any item you find on earth that does anything for itself except the selfish heart of man, then we need to change that. But there is no possibility because this is the law. Nothing does anything for itself because it's unable to do anything for itself. And by the law, by the way we work and everything was created, God and the existence of God is proven because God must necessarily exist as the source to supply every channel. This is why I paint God as a circuit. Paul says it in his words, from him, through him, and to him are all things. The circuit. He's the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. So he must begin and close the circle, because if the whole universe is a channel, many, many channels, so God must be the one that starts it all, and to him everything needs to come back by law, because you need to have an end, the beginning of the circuit and the end of it is the same thing. That's why everything is created identically to this model. Everything, no matter what you have, must have a point of starting, and it has the same point where it also is stopping. You see the circuits of the water, by example. All water comes from where? From the ocean. And where does it return? To the ocean. Yeah? So that's a circle, but on the way it does a lot of things. It gives us, all those things. So must be selfless. By the law, by the existence of things, everything is selfless. Not by choice, but by creation, by design. So that's why it's beautiful to see that God is a loving God, because everything works in a circuit. And He is the beginning and the end of the whole circuit of the universe. So, knowing that, we want to know where is the problem, where we are in, what is the deception. And the deception is deep, but it can be easily, discerned if we know that the deception is something that just changes the order of function. So can the order of function change? The question is, what comes first? The taking or the giving? Taking, because the circle goes in one direction. Yeah? So it doesn't go in both directions, it goes in one direction. It can go this way or that way, but any circle that goes in a direction must go in one direction. So number one is the taking, and number two is the giving. So can the order be changed? That means, can I make out of the two a one? Can I first give and then take? Is that possible? So I thank you for the yes, because this is how we think. Because the human heart does not think it takes first. It always thinks it gives first. Did you ever hear it's a take and give or a give and take? Yeah, that's how the heart speaks. Jesus says, what the heart is full, the mouth falls, speaketh. So it's always a give and take. You always invest first in order to get it. But what do you invest? From whom do you invest? So the entrance and the exit can never be changed. And the circuit cannot function. And this is where all problems arise. The devil did not want to change the law. He wanted to change the channel. Let's see it. The separation from the source of love, resulting in evil and unrighteousness, aroused through an inner process of wanting to change one's own nature. So, Lucifer and later Adam and Eve, what did they pursue in their thoughts? They were created, they were a channel by creation. They wanted to become what? They wanted to become God. That means they're not a channel anymore, but they are a source. Yes, they are origin, a creator. They are not anymore a creature. Is this possible? Can anyone change his nature? Well, today, yes. I mean, how many genders do you have in Australia? We have in Germany 67 or something, 72. Yeah. So, at least in my practice, I have 5 in my computer program. Yes. So you have male, you have female, and then unknown, diverse, and what was the other one? Yeah. So anything. So it's there. Where does it come from? From possibility or impossibility? It's an impossible attempt. I did my first surgery. I was a student. When I did my first surgery with the professor, I helped him to change a woman into a man. No. Yes, to change a woman into a man. That was a complicated surgery. I mean, imagine you have to take some materials to add to it. It's easy to make out of a man a woman, surgically, anatomically. But it's very hard to make out of a woman a man. But how much is possible today? Everything, because you are what? You're a God. So you can choose your gender, you can choose, those things that are not choosable. Did Lucifer and Adam choose something that is choosable? It's not choosable. That's why sin is a deception. It's a mystery. That you can choose something that is not choosable is stupidity, to say it in English. Yeah. So now what happens with the law in the moment you change imaginary? Of course, it's an imaginary change because, some people go to school and they crawl under the bed and under the desk and they say they are a cat. Yeah? But that's real life today, And then the teacher cannot say, come out of there because you're not a cat. Yeah? When you're a cat, you go to the veterinary, you don't go to the doctor for the human ones. But the veterinary says, I don't know your anatomy, you're not a cat. But that's a court case because the doctor refuses to treat the patient because he does not take care of the cat. Then he comes to him, the cat. I mean, we are laughing, but this is reality. It's stupidity. It's the world is upside down because we believe something about ourselves which can never be true. So, the law determines how and where the need must be met. So if you're a channel, and we take ourselves now as humans, you need to take love from God as the only source and give it to the environment, to the neighbor, and to all others. Now, if you're an origin, you don't need to take. You just give. But you always give in order to receive. And that is selfishness or egoism. So those are the 2 elements how things are. You either think, I take first and give, or you think, I give first and then want to receive. Selfishness is the result of the impossible attempt to make something from oneself and for oneself. As a channel, how much can you do for yourself? Nothing. So Job proved, if you remember his story, that he was a perfect man, because what did he say when everything was stolen from him? He says, naked I came into the world. God has given, God has taken, the name of the Lord shall be praised. In all this, he did not sin. Why? How would we have reacted if you lose 10 children in a day? In 12 hours, Job lost everything. He had the how can I say, the apogee of loss, of the greatest stress that every human had to experience was Job. In 12 hours, from rich, from children, from family, everything was lost. So he did not get sick. Why? Because he was in the truth. The second temptation for Job would have never come if Job would have failed in his first temptation. But he didn't fail. He was in the truth. And in the second one, he as well proved that he was bound to God and not to anyone else. So we have these two things, and now, since they are subconscious, and I ask this sometimes young people because they don't get embarrassed when they don't say the right things. Did you eat today? And they say yes. And the young man is here. Did you eat today? Yeah. Do you eat today? Did you eat? For whom did you eat? For whom? For yourself. Yeah, that's what everyone thinks here in this room. We all eat for ourselves. But what does the Bible say? Everything you do, you eat or drink, do it to what? To God. Why? To glory of God. Because this body is not yours. But in your deception that you believe you're a God, it is your body. Everything you do for yourself. That's as simple as it is. If we are not aware that we eat for God, children should know that, do they? And adults as well. When we go eating, we eat for God's body, because this is God's body, is it? When the body of Paul was beaten, he said, I'm happy to bear the pain that are still missing to the body of Christ. So he identified his body with the body of Christ. He was in the truth, because that's the truth. No one can do anything from himself and for himself, even though he thinks he does it. It's totally impossible. So how are we messed up when we read the Bible? Let's look to that, what we studied this morning in the Bible Sabbath school. Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment of the Lord. So love God, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So everything is in this included or excluded? Everything is included. You know, right interpretation of the Bible includes things. Wrong interpretation of the Bible excludes things. And the most interpretation that the Jewish people have and that the Christians have today is excluding interpretation. That's why they don't understand things. They exclude things. For the disciples, to Jesus to die was excluded from the interpretation of the Messiah. It was not included. That's why they were all disappointed. And they never got it when Jesus told them that he has to die. So now the question is how? You read it, and you read how. And there are two ways of doing the how. Let's see. What is it? I love God in order to give him something. I love my neighbor in order to give him something. That's the first option that we have. The second option is I love God to take from him. And I love my neighbor in order to give him the love that I took from God. So those are the two options. Now, what is the right one and what is the wrong one? Now I tell you, that the most people believe the first one. Because in the deception, you just give. You give to the neighbor, you give to God, and then you are very exhausted in just giving and never receiving. So, the reality is that we are a channel, and to love God is impossible to give Him something. You only, at the point of taking, you can never give. And at the point of the exit, you can never take. That's why at the entrance you take, at the exit you give. And you cannot switch that. Look at you. I mean, we can take all kinds of examples in our body. Do you eat here or ears or in another place? Yeah? So you cannot change the order. Yeah? So that's very, very plain. So to love God means I take from Him. That's why the Bible explains God in two parables and in two pictures. He says God is what? Water and bread. So how much do you give when we now go for lunch? How much do you give the food that you eat? How much do you give it? Nothing. You just take it. So God is only there for us to be eaten. Because His information is the only one that will always fit our needs. Because that's how we were made. So that's why to love God is to drink His word, to drink His information that comes from Him, to drink from His way of being, because He is love. So you never can give God anything. You only can take from Him. So remember that. Do you love food? Yes. And that's how we should love God. Never imagine, I love God by giving Him something, because you have nothing to give to God. Neither to your neighbor if you didn't take it from God. So this is when the Spirit is in the truth. Then He's free. Then He has a yes and a no. And if He's in the lie that He believes is a God, He's in an impossibility. And to give just to each side is totally impossible. But we all live in that deception. You have to listen to all preachers. They always preach, and you can see it from their content. Then when they say love God, they tell you to give Him something. And they even can take some Bible text. Can they? My son, what? Give me thy heart. So, I have to give him something, no? So we can be very, very fooled if you don't understand how things work. So let us see where the problem is. Human abilities do not include the object that is used. So the ability to breathe does not include what? Does not include the oxygen. So you have the ability to breathe, but if you have no oxygen and you breathe something else, like monoxide, carbon monoxide, then what happens? You have to die. No way. So the ability to do something does not include the element never. The same happens with food. The ability to eat does not include the food. The ability to drink does not include the water or any fluid. The ability to love does not include love. But here we are very confused. Very confused. Because we think the ability to love makes us able to produce love. And if I would have not seen this in my patient, I would have always thought, I am able to love, so I also have my own love. Because all patients come to me, they are not maybe Christians, but subconsciously everyone believes that love comes from his own heart. Comes from him. That's why we say, I love you from from the bottom of my heart, and all these declarations. Yeah, they're worth nothing. Because they just tell me, I love you to eat you. Yeah, because that's how how we think subconsciously. So let us make very clear. Love is something else that we can do. We only can process it, but we can never produce it. And we'll see tomorrow that we all believe we can produce love. The ability to love never includes love. All must come from a source. Now, on the physical thing, we can never be fooled, but on the spiritual. Because the problem that we have is not physical, it's spiritual. In the spirit, we are confused. There, we can be deceived. Deception in a physical element can never exist because it functions according to laws never changeable. So, through ignorance, every one of us, every human being, believes out of the error of his heart that he is a God, that when he hears to love God, he gives love to God, and then he gives love to the neighbor. From where? From me, from myself, which is both an impossibility. You can never give anything from yourself, neither to God, neither to your neighbor, because you're an empty channel. You come up, you are your own existence has a lot of abilities, but no means by which you exist. This is the terrible deception of the human heart, because it believes something about himself that is not the truth. And I didn't find something, and I will explain this tomorrow when we look to the subconscious, I didn't find a deeper deception than the idea I'm a God. Because then you're the source. And looking back how things worked in Adam and Eve and also in Satan, then we know that that is the only way to break the law, is to make yourself higher or equal with God. That's the only way to break, because then you believe you're independent. So the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So what is the human self-deception of the human being? Leads him to think, I am independent of love to take from a source. No child. I was not grown up in Adventist, I was grown up in the Adventist church, but no one told me that I need love from God. Our children have no idea about that, because we live unconsciously thinking that we're just giving love from ourselves. Yeah, the child is trained, do this, don't do this, and make all those things, but it has no idea that it's dependent for love. And it's very hard to transmit this message to my patient, because every patient would say, I'm not dependent for love. I don't think after my mother. But everyone is always dependent on a source. You can never be at a state in your life to be independent from a source of love. And it starts with mother, and then you have father, and you add all those things to your life, and then you wonder why your body gets sick. Because you're dependent on them, expecting love from them. So all people believe through the deception, I don't need love to take from someone. They just think they live from themselves. That's why you have atheists. What do atheists believe? Do they need God? No. Why not? Because they live from their own love. But no one can live from their own love. And I like atheists because when they come to me as patients, I can prove to them on their relationships that when their wife dies and they get into depression and into deep problems, I prove to them that their wife is their God. Very, very simple. Because if you would be independent spiritually, why would you mourn your dead? Because you never mourn the dead. You always mourn yourself. But you're not aware of it. You believe you mourn the others. You think, oh, I'm so pitiful for the others. No. That's why when you mourn a person, you get high blood pressure, you get cancer, you get all those things. Because a broken spirit dries up the bones. That's what my attending physician taught me. I can give from myself time, body, energy, and so on. How much energy do you have that you can give from yourself? How much energy does your muscle have? zero. Everything has zero power. It must first take and then give it on. A big engine has how much power without gasoline? Nothing. So the engine is powerful. We were made to be very special, powerful beings, but without love, we are just empty, without power. So I can never give anything from myself because I'm empty. But we all things, when we give time, it's our time. When we give our work to do something, we think we do it from ourselves, which is all a deception. And the worst result of it is that it is all unconscious of it. You're unconscious of it. So we have this situation and we don't know it ourselves. And disease is one of the means by which God shows us the deception. Difficult relationships. I encourage you to read the third last chapter of Ministry of Healing in relation to others. You will find there very beautiful instructions how to treat the other, to never say any negative things to the other. But in our conversation, what do we talk about? Oh, we just are used to say the negative because that's our burden that we need to get rid of. We don't speak the good things. So the worst is that it is unconscious to us. And until we get into trouble, until we get into difficulties in relationships and our lives, and as a result also having the disease, human beings are not able to realize their own deception. It's very hard. So imagine this, my patient. I tell her, look, you deceive yourself. Your boyfriend didn't do you any harm. How would she react? How? Well, he did all my trust. He disappointed. He hurt me. He broke me. And all is a deception. Because to her brain, only her own thoughts make the harm, not her boyfriend. Because it doesn't get to her brain. Only her spirit that perceives the information the wrong way destroys the body and makes the pain. But is it easy to transmit that or no? You see, when Jesus was on earth, and I understand him better now as a physician, because he came and he could heal how many people? All of them. And he went one day in the synagogue in Nazareth, and he started reading. You can read that in Luke 4:18. I came to bring the good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to make and set the captive free, and open up the eyes of the blind, and make the oppressed free, and to proclaim the good year of the Lord. How did the church react? What was the end of it? He was killed, was he? He would have died. That's Sabbath, because you don't are allowed on Sabbath to do work, but to kill you're allowed. Isn't it amazing? How blind you can be? So these people were blind to their state. Jesus said, today this has happened here. I came to save you from your 5 states. None of them reacted to it. Jesus could not do much in Nazareth because of their unbelief. He could say whatever he could say. If they wouldn't believe it, his words would fall on a ground that is like, the way where the birds come and pick it up, and it's gone. So in Laodicea, Revelation 3:17, do we have another picture? That was the beginning of the church, yes, in Nazareth, and this is the end of the church, yes, Laodicea. How is Laodicea? It's not lukewarm. Laodicea is in total unknowledge of itself. Because it says, you say that you are, how? Rich and increased in goods and lack, how much? Nothing. and you don't know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. You don't know it. So you don't know yourself. Jesus could only save the sick ones and the sinner ones. So are you a sinner or are you sick? If you're not, you don't need a Savior. You like it? I know that some people don't like it, but that's the truth. Only the sick people need a Savior. They can realize it. And I tell you, in my experience, I'm very happy when people come to me and they have this disease and they have that disease and they have this third disease, and I rejoice every time they say something new. Why? Because they said, this is a candidate for heaven. Thank God for this, because to him I can prove on his life story, on his thoughts that he will present to me, on his relationships, that he has a wrong understanding, that he's in deception, and he needs the cross, and he needs a new life in order to be free from deception and to be free from his disease. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to remain in this state? Because this state, we have no choice that we have it. We are born with it. No one chooses to be born poor or blind or naked or so on. But this is the state of all of us that we are born. And Jesus in the Bible uses 5 pictures to make it aware to us. All these states show that you are incapable. Yes? The poor is incapable to pay, the brokenhearted cannot live, the captive is incapable to think correct, the blind does not know what he does, and the oppressed is a slave of others. And we are a slave of others. So the question is, do you want to remain in this state? I hope. Not that we have inherited the state is not a choice, but that we get out of this is our choice. It's the only choice that we have in life, is to get out of the state of death into the state of life. No one will be judged the way he was born. Everyone will be judged because he rejected the offer of getting out of this state. And I hope all of you will learn of it, and you're here because you want to get out of that state, because this state does not make you able to love. This state only makes you to be selfish. To do that, what you believe is love, is selfishness. This state needs to be removed, and by tomorrow we will work more on it. God may help us to not be deceived. Amen.